The M1 Max MacBook Pro 16 is one of the most powerful computers that I've ever seen, and despite some problems that I initially had with mine, I am now using it as my primary computer. So what are some of the things that you can buy to make it even better? Let's find out. What's up everyone, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. So yes, welcome to another accessory video for the MacBook Pro 16. We actually hadn't done one of these, and I was kind of surprised about that. We did the desk setup, but we haven't talked about my favorite accessories for this computer, so we're gonna fix that today. Now you can actually see something new that we're trying to do here today is I've actually laid out all of the accessories with the MacBook in the way that I would normally use them. And what's cool about the MacBook is you don't really need anything to get a lot out of it. If you just wanted to use this by itself, you absolutely could do that. I mean, this thing has a monster display, it's got a monster processor, it's got all the ports you could ever need. And one of the cool things about today's video is you'll notice there's not a single dongle in here because you don't need a dongle for the MacBook Pro 16. But let's go through all of this one at a time as we go through our little setup situation here. If you wanted to use this by itself, that's cool, but there are a couple of things that I think are bare minimum that you should get. First off, I would recommend getting a stand. This is a stand from a company called Lamicall. You can find all sorts of stands on the internet. They're not really hard to come by. Again, keep this in mind that these accessories are more of like guiding principles of what kind of accessories you should get, not necessarily buy this exact accessory. But I would say get a stand, because when you have a stand, you can get it to be right in line with your eye, so you're not hunching over it. You can move this however you want it, so you can set this to take more advantage of this. You get it up, back. This is so much better for you if you're going to be working off this for a long period of time. Say you're teleworking, you're working from home, all of that stuff. Getting a stand makes it, is basically essential. I will never, ever again work over a laptop like this. I'm getting old. I got to start watching out for all of my soft tissue bits. Like, they get hurt real quick. Then if you're going to do that, I would also recommend a keyboard and mouse combination. And in a very first ever, I'm going to recommend that you go out and build a mechanical keyboard. Now, the cool thing about this is my very first mechanical keyboard that I've ever built. This is built off of a GMMK Pro 10 keyless board. But what's cool, don't get scared. Like, you don't have to be scared of building a mechanical keyboard. There's no soldering or anything like that. You can just go out and get the board, get the keycaps, and get the switches, and that's all you really need to do. And despite how most mechanical keyboards go click, clack, 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 and they're super annoying, these have what are called Cherry MX black switches in them, which are a linear switch, so they don't do too much clack. And listen to this. Oh, I love typing on this thing. It is the most comfortable keyboard that I've ever typed on before in my life. And I like that it doesn't have that real harsh click, click, clacking, but it's just got a real satisfying, like, it feels very substantive to type on. There's all sorts of layouts you can buy. There's all sorts of setups you can get. You can get full keyboards, 60% keyboards. Like I said, I did 10 keyless, which means it's basically a standard keyboard minus all of the number keys. But if you need that, you can get a full layout. This took a couple of hours to put together, and it was an awful lot of fun. I think in total, this cost me around 150 bucks, which is not that much different than going out and getting an Apple Magic keyboard or one of the higher end membrane-based keyboards. And this, you get to have a fun little project. I like just building stuff, and that was the most fun I had about this. But I will say, if you notice here, it is much taller than, say, an Apple Magic keyboard or the MX Master keys that I've recommended before. So in these accessories, if you're going to get a keyboard this tall, I would also recommend a palm rest. Now, this is the palm rest from my Logitech G513 mechanical keyboard that I don't really use all that often because it is one of those harsh click clacking ones. But because of how tall this is, you don't want to put a lot of strain on your wrists. So you just get a little palm rest so you can have your wrist, palms, and all that in a very nice neutral position as you're typing. You just get your work done. I love how that sounds. Plus, these keycaps are very sturdy, and it just, oh, I love it. Plus, I love how it looks. You can customize your own look. Go build and customize some of your own stuff because it's an awful lot of fun. For the mouse, not a lot of change here. I will continue to recommend the Logitech MX Master 3. This is the best mouse I've ever used in my life, and I'll continue to use it. You can tell I use it somewhat. Look how gross this thing has got. I've worn this out from an awful lot of use because this is the only mouse I use. I carry this. If I'm going somewhere, I will have my keyboard and my mouse and my MacBook, and I always use this. So comfortable. It has so many additional features. I love the lateral scroll wheel right here. I spend a lot of time photo and video editing, and not a lot of mice, except the Apple Magic Mouse, will allow you to scroll horizontally as well. This is such a key feature. Plus, everything just is so smooth. It's so nice. It charges via USB-C. It's got plenty of additional customizable buttons. You got this one, and then there's one right here that you can't see. There's nothing else I can recommend. I have mice that I recommend for travel mice, like the Logitech Pebble. The MX Master 3 is the best mouse you can buy. Period. And okay, so we're set all that down. on a desk pad. Look how much fun this desk pad is too. I would recommend you go out and get a nice neoprene desk pad. Normally I've been recommending a leather one from a company called Galloway Leathers, and I still use that leather desk mat in my own setup, but I just love this. You've been seeing this in a lot of thumbnails recently. This is just such a fun color. I don't know what it is, but I love just how bold and contrasty all of the colors are, and you can get a desk pad like this in just about any color, in just about any shape, in just about any size, but I highly recommend it because it keeps everything just nice and firm on the table. It makes sure that your mouse isn't damaging the table. It makes sure the table's not damaging the mouse. A lot of this stuff is expensive, and you don't necessarily want to put undue stress on your stuff. I mean, some of these desks are expensive. This is not a cheap mouse. Save all of your stuff from some wear and tear. These are not very expensive. I bought a whole bunch of these for all the thumbnails on the channel. I think they're like 10, 15 bucks a piece. Highly recommend a desk pad, and you can just get the fun ones. Okay, now as we're moving away kind of from the desk setup here, I do have another stand that I would recommend if you do not want to use the screen on the MacBook. Let's say you have an external monitor, because we're getting ready to talk about my external monitor here in just a second. This is a stand from a company called 12 South. It's called the Bookarc. I've gotten a lot of questions if this will actually work with the MacBook Pro. I use mine in the MacBook Pro 16. This is how mine sits primarily every single day. It fits perfectly fine. It does pull in on the rubber a little bit, and you can see, I don't know if you can see this right here. It leaves a little bit of a rubber mark right on the body of the laptop, but that buffs out really easily with a microfiber cloth. This is all that I use because I plug my laptop straight into an external display, and this just keeps it out of the way until I need it for traveling or some such stuff. Speaking of cables, I would recommend you go out and get all new cables, unless you already have all these cables. If you already have Thunderbolt 4 cables, then leave it at that. You don't need to go spend the money. I would say get Thunderbolt 4 cables across the board. At the very least, get Thunderbolt 3 cables, because that's how you're going to take advantage of all of the USB-C ports on the MacBook. You would be so surprised at the difference between a cheap USB-C cable and a legit Thunderbolt cable. I have just very recently replaced all of my cabling with Thunderbolt 4. I use it for the monitor, I use it for charging, I use it for all of these accessories. It is so good. And I know the cables are more expensive than, say, a standard or cheaper USB-C cable, but it will be. Data transfers will be faster, power transfers will be faster, you'll get better external display support, just everything will be better if you use Thunderbolt 4 cables. I know it's not the coolest or the most exciting thing to talk about in an accessory video, but I'm telling you, team, Thunderbolt cables will just make your life so much easier. And then when we're talking external displays, I can't show you now because I have it hooked up in my desk, but a display, you should probably be using an external display with the MacBook Pro 16 if you're gonna work from home. And there's only a couple of real displays out there that match what this screen can do. And my display doesn't even match what this can do because it's only a 60 Hz refresh rate compared to the 120 Hz refresh rate on MacBook itself. But I'm using the LG OLED Ultrafine display. This display is gorgeous. It's unbelievably expensive. It costs more than this MacBook Pro costs, but you get a very crisp 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio. It goes up to crazy nits of brightness for HDR. I basically just keep it in HDR all the time now because that screen is gorgeous. It's super thin, very light. I'm surprised at how small and how light it is. It's a 32-inch monitor that I was very easily able to hook up to my desk and just have it on a nice mounting movable arm. So it's very easy to get it up, move it out of the way if I need to, readjust it. It's just so good, and it looks as good as the display on here. I do wish it was a little faster than 60 Hz, but one of the reasons I bought that OLED monitor as opposed to other OLED monitors is sometimes OLED panels have real problems with burn-in. That's where if you leave a graphic in one spot for a very long time, it'll get burned in, and that's what you'll see there forever. But one of the cool things about the LG Ultrafine is it has a few pixels on each side, and it has a thing called pixel shift, where it will every now and again shift the pixels a little bit to make sure that it's always moving and you're not going to get too much burn-in. I've only had it for about a month now, so I can't give you a long-term report on that. We'll talk more about that maybe in the next few months. We'll see if there is a big problem with the burn-in. Great monitor, beautiful, I love it, and you should for how much that stupid thing costs, right? Okay, a lot of people watch these videos because I'm a YouTuber. You might be watching this to see how you could do a little bit better in YouTube things as well. And one of the big things for YouTube videos is audio. Something that I've been plugging into my MacBook basically every day as I try to stand up my new YouTube channel, and it's a lot of voiceover stuff, but I've been using this Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 audio interface. All you have to do is you take your microphone, like you could use this microphone, you plug it in to the XLR port, and then you take the USB-C out and plug it directly into your MacBook, and you don't have to do really anything else. This takes the analog waves of like you talking through the microphone. This turns it into clean digital signals that your computer and editing software can very easily recognize and handle, and it's very good. It's got an awful lot of clean gain inside of this thing. I've been using this with a Shure SM7B, and if you know that microphone, it needs so much clean gain to sound anything good. Like if you put that microphone on a weak preamp, it will sound terrible. People spend lots of money on cloud lifters and things like that to give them even more boost of power. You don't need that here. This thing has so much power. It's incredible, and all it takes is an XLR cable and a USB-C cable to your computer. You don't gotta mess, it's not one of those crazy audio interfaces that has switch and knobs, and they look cool, but they also look scary if you're trying to mix your audio. If you're a YouTuber or some other kind of video creator and you need to do very nice voiceover, this is what I would buy to plug into my MacBook. And hey, as I'm editing the video, I realized I didn't actually show how good the audio from the Focusrite can actually be. So here is the Focusrite plugged into my MacBook Pro 16, and I'm using the Shure SM7B. There's no cloud, here's my cloud lifter. It's not plugged into anything. So it is just that interface by itself plugged into my computer, and it sounds incredible. This is the video from my iPhone. This is not the audio from the, it's not plugged into the iPhone. I have to sync this in post. So this is how it sounds, and it is a fantastic addition to the MacBook. Other things to plug into your MacBook is we've got SD card slots. Now you're probably going to want to get some SD cards, and these are the only SD cards. These are the Sony Tough M model SD cards. I have 4 of these at 128 gigabytes, and they're all in the cameras right now. I had this one to show you. There's the M and the G version. The G version are far more expensive. They do read and write a little bit faster than this, but I find I shoot everything in 4K 10-bit here, all my photography's at the max that the cameras can do, and these work perfectly fine for what I need to do. And if you need more than that, you know what you need. So if you're looking for a general, very good SD card, go with the Sony Tough card. It's a single piece of construction, which is my favorite part. Most SD cards are 2 layers of plastic sandwiched and glued together, which can cause problems over time. I have had problems with SD cards like that. This is all one piece. It's super tough, durable. I love them. I will continue to recommend them. And then one of the problems I've had with the MacBook Pro 16, you've heard me talk about, is my external RAID drive has problems with the drives spinning up. So if you're going to use the new M1 MacBook Pro 16 or 14, I'm going to say get some solid state drives. This is the Samsung T7 SSD. This is 1 terabyte. It's lightning fast for transferring files between them. This is what I've been using. I transfer all my files that I need to move from my MacBook. I have a little memory station set up. I transfer everything from here onto this, into that, and it transfers so fast because macOS Monterey is really good with solid state drives. Okay, what are we missing? Security. I think I'm going to recommend this in every single accessory video from here on out. This is the Google Titan. If you have accounts, like you're a YouTuber with your YouTube account, you need to secure it with something like the Google Titan. What this is, it will not allow people to log into your account unless they have this physically plugged into the computer. You can't have it set up with an app, or certain phones will do that. But look, this YouTube channel, it's very important to me. I would be heartbroken and probably a little sick if something happened to it. So I take every step that I can, 2-factor authentication, and then secure it with the Titan. Well, it helps me sleep at night, and hopefully it will help protect your assets as well. All right, we only got a couple more things, a few non-essentials, but nice to haves with the MacBook Pro 16. You heard me talk about this in a previous video a couple of days ago. This is the iPad mini. The reason I recommend this with the MacBook Pro 16 is the MacBook Pro 16 is big. You probably don't want to always carry that around with you, but sometimes you need a little more screen real estate than what your iPhone has. So I really like the iPad mini paired with the MacBook Pro 16, just because it allows me a bigger screen for all of my calendar checking, note taking, stuff like that. But then it transfers instantly to the MacBook without taking up that much space. I mean, look at this. This is essentially like a little notebook that has a direct line to the MacBook at all times. It works with Apple Pencil, it's got AirDrop, iMessage, all that stuff. Plus, this has that ultra-wide front-facing camera that I've loved so much. And it's just, look, this is like the perfect companion to any Apple device, but really with the MacBook Pro 16, because look at this thing. This is giant. You don't want to carry this around all the time, but if you need a little more functionality, check this out. Look at how much easier this is to carry around than this is if you're doing a lot of like running around between offices. And then the last thing I'm going to recommend today are the AirPods 3. Normally I recommend the AirPods Pro, but these just came out and these sound so good. Yes, they're missing out on the little gaskets that the AirPods Pro have, and they don't have active noise cancellation like the AirPods Pro, but these are remarkably good. I bought these for my wife. These are my wife's. These are not mine, but I borrowed those while she was out for this video. I highly recommend these because even in the small time that I've worn them, they're incredibly comfortable. They're so much better than the original AirPods. They fit better, they sound better, they're just all around better. They got the same kind of charging case as the AirPods Pro. If you don't like how the AirPods Pro feel, I would say give these a shot because these are phenomenal. And yes, that is all of the accessories that I'm going to recommend today for the MacBook Pro 16. You'll be able to find all of those in the description down below. And don't forget, a lot of this stuff it's a suggestion on a type of accessory. You don't necessarily have to go out and make your own mechanical keyboard, though I would recommend it because it is a ton of fun and it's not as scary as it might originally seem. But just go out and get a decent keyboard. Go out and get a decent mouse. All of this stuff are suggestions, which I hope you'll take advantage of. But what about you? What are some of your favorite accessories for your MacBook Pro 16, MacBook Pro 14? What are some of your favorite MacBook accessories at all? Just let me know in the comments below because I love checking out everybody's favorite accessories. And if you like this video and you would like to see my thoughts on the comparison between the MacBook Pro 16 and the MacBook Pro 14, because I think there is a lot more difference there than it might originally seem, good news, you can find my video for that by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.